beautiful day for another weekly Q&A session. And if you're wondering what this is, then it is a similar setup to the weekly live streams, except of course, instead of being live, it is pre-recorded, and we're going to be going over some Bitcoin analysis here first, of course, and then we'll get into the actual Q&As of the day. Now for Bitcoin actually did close Saturday above the top side of this trend line that has been essentially holding Bitcoin back since May 27th. So that is a small change of behavior. However, I would add the caveat that this happened on a Saturday, and weekend breakouts or breakdowns are notorious for not getting follow through. Now, with that said, I easily could see Bitcoin, trading a little bit more to the upside here, but I'd really be guarded against Bitcoin making new all-time highs or like trending in a significant manner to significantly new all-time highs from this exact region. We did have this target to the downside in this past week, somewhere to a very, very low $100,000 territory. It sounds really crazy to say, to be honest. And Bitcoin has hit that and has had a pretty epic bounce from there. But I would just be a little bit on guard here, despite, yes, this is technically a breakout. And if you are going to be looking at this as a falling channel, which, is more likely to break out to the upside, there is an implied target to be made from this. And that's actually, somewhere between about 109 to 110. So fair enough. I mean, that is in there. But like I said, when I see breakouts or breakdowns happen over the weekend, I'm usually looking at that to get faded. And of course, we can also see that the most recent price action pivot here is 106,850. If Bitcoin does get around there, that would also be another area of interest for potentially a bit of a pullback into a rejection. Other than that, as far as the weekly closure does go, we have the HPDR right here. And, again, if Bitcoin wanted to try a short-term move back up to the top side of the 38.2 level at 109.25, that's completely fine. It doesn't change anything from our ranges, however. So, it's inconsequential. I'm just trying to show that, hey, Bitcoin could rally, another $4,000 from here. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be trending towards massively new all-time highs. By the same token, we still have the general setup for areas of interest a little bit lower than where Bitcoin's at right now, but don't mistake that for me being bearish. I'm not bearish overall. Bitcoin can easily afford a deeper pullback and still be in a general uptrend and still be generally bullish. But as it stands right here, the weekly has still not tested the median despite weekly volatility contracting for quite some time now. So inevitably, at some point, it will test the median. Now, when Bitcoin opens up the new weekly, which is going to happen later tonight upon the daily closure, this median very likely will shift to the upside. It probably will come up, I imagine, somewhere between 97 to 98,000 bucks, but we'll know for sure tomorrow. And at that point, again, still have to generally be looking somewhere down around there. That also goes hand in hand with the daily 3 EMA versus 21 EMA setup that we spoke about earlier this past week, with slightly lower areas of interest than what Bitcoin got to on Thursday's low. So, does Bitcoin come back down to test that low at some point? Does it make a slightly lower low? Possible, yes. But like I said, I do think that this is more or less a long-term opportunity. And when we do look at everyone's favorite chart, and maybe not everyone's favorite chart, but a highly requested chart, which is, of course, tether dominance, I do think that this chart is ready to come down overall. Can it spend a little bit more time kind of bouncing around here? Sure. But ultimately, I still think it's coming somewhere here as the name would imply, which does imply upside price action for cryptos, for the old cryptocurrencies, namely Bitcoin. But yeah, this one still, I think, is going to be indicative of probably the end of the cycle when we see Bitcoin but tether dominance get somewhere down around here. All right, cool. That's enough for the Bitcoins. Yeah, can't really be bearish on Bitcoin when this chart looks like this. So, just keep the more long-term in mind. All right, let's get into the actual Q&A of the day. By the way, I should probably let you know that we actually do still have our summer sale going on for the next week. 20% off of any one of the programs or services that you can see in the Teachable link in the description below, for 20% off with the code SUMMER20. Yes, I think I hit all my notes right there. All right, beautiful. Let's get into it, baby. We have Cousin Burley first. She says, hey, Crown, and hey, Sean. Oh, wait, what? Must be some Finnish shit. Can you expand on the importance of the 4-hour 21 EMA when trading lower timeframes? If you're trading the 4-hour timeframe, then the 21 EMA is obviously going to be relevant, just because it's always going to be an area of interest, because it kind of gives you a general idea of the bias of trend and by the way, this is the yellow moving average right here. When it's upside angled and prices above it, you're generally in an uptrend, as you saw starting back on Friday the 11th of April, actually. And when Bitcoin did have little corrections, it came very, very close to that 21 EMA. Sorry, this is on a daily time frame, but the same sort of knowledge applies on, whatever time frame you're looking at, basically. So as long as you're above there, as long as Bitcoin as long as that moving average maintains its positive slope, then you can generally be bullish, and pullbacks below it especially are probably going to get picked back on up. Now, just using one moving average on its own, I don't think is actually very useful. I think it's better to combine it with something else. That's why I always have the 55 there, and actually the 5 EMA as well for, more accurate, I guess, trending signals. But whenever price really approaches the 21 EMA, you can almost always bet on a small reaction from it. I think the daily time frame showed this a little bit better, but if your question quite literally is, what is the importance when trading lower timeframes? To me, lower timeframes means like under an hourly timeframe. In that equation, it's like, what, you're not looking at the 4 hour 21. Like, you're looking at the 4 hour 21 if you're looking at the 4 hour 21. If you're looking at the 4 hour 21, I mean, there is an equivalent moving average for an hourly timeframe, for example. I mean, be 4 times that. But that's a different thing. Anyways. Back on topic here, like I said, the general knowledge with the 21 EMA is that when you're above it and it has a positive slope, you're generally in an upside move, in an uptrend, and you should be buying the dip, quote unquote, and vice versa when it's downside. And I think that kind of takes care of that for now. Nice. Okay, Ben's chair, there he is. What's up, man? Hello, Crown and Miss Elsa. First and foremost, thank you for helping my portfolio become balls and not pussy. Yes, that's what we want. Balls, not pussies. As it was getting pounded for quite a while. That could also be an ass as well. Question, when trading or attempting to trade the 4 hour and the daily, what would be the most accurate way of identification of local highs or lows whilst using BBWP in conjunction with the momentum indicator, RSI versus reverse? So, well, neither of these are going to matter for judging highs or lows, to be honest. Momentum oscillators tell you about momentum, not about really trend. Trend, there are better things, of course. So I think I understand what you mean. The most obvious answer here is our newest indicator, which is the price action pivots indicator. It quite literally just marks off these areas for you, the most recent ones. So you can see this one is showing you the most recent local and lower high on the daily time frame at 106.850. If you don't have access to this indicator, like I said, you can try it out for free for 7 days, and it's also on sale right now as well, if you so desire. But if you want another way, going back into it here, to judge identification of local highs or lows, well, most indicators are not going to do that for you. So you actually don't even want an indicator. What you need is a little bit of price action knowledge. And for that, we need about a few hour long conversation, I guess. But basically, you're looking for a stop and reverse point on price action. I think it makes a lot more sense when you go to a line chart here. When you see an obvious stop and reverse, that is a local high and a local low. So right here, and again, the keyword here is obvious. Like, if it's not obvious, it's probably nothing. So if you can call these out, like this one right here, obviously local low, stops from going to the downside and then reverses up. Then we have a local high, local low. It's also a higher low, so there's an uptrend. Makes a higher high, okay, beautiful. Comes back down, makes a higher low, awesome. Comes back up, makes a lower high, okay, that's your first indication that maybe some things are switching around. Then when price comes back down below that last prior local low, well, you have a lower high and a lower low, thus downside price action becomes more and more likely. But basically, like I said, you're looking for a stop and reverse point. Typically, this happens over anywhere between 3 to 7-ish candle closures. Sometimes it can be a little bit less than that, but you should be very, very skeptical if it is less than 3, because that doesn't happen too often. So for example, this one right here is 3. You have 1, 2, 3, and the third one confirms reversal. Now, that does mean that on the actual high or low, you're not going to know it until it's actually baked into price. So that's why trend is so important, because you can't actually front run these signals, because there's no way to do. I mean, there are ways to do that. I mean, momentum oscillator divergence is kind of one way to do that, I guess. But that's not what. That's my point is that if you're just looking to mark off local highs and local lows, you won't know until at minimum, it's back down here where my cursor is right now, and that's okay. That's okay. Again, the trend is your friend. because the trend is likely to continue in whatever direction it is currently positioned in. And you can see that this one does follow through rather well here. And as of right now, still is within a downtrend, actually, especially as long as you're below the most recent price action pivot at 106.850. So yeah, man. All right, let's go back to regular dildos here. Yes, beautiful. All right. Arms Private says BNB USD weekly and monthly. Got it, man. Potential targets to the upside and the downside. Oh God. Well, BNB actually does have one of the better charts of the shitcoin bunch, but let's see how it's doing here. Let's go to your higher term timeframes. I think he was looking for a weekly and a monthly. Yeah. Okay. So you need very high term timeframes here. Ultimately, this one is still within a major consolidation. So I don't think it's necessarily ready to move in any particular major direction just yet. This one could easily play out a move to the downside, somewhere close to $600 on the bearish side, and to the upside could easily play out a move to like 720 to 730. Neither of these moves change anything. The only price that really changes things for BNB would be below the most recent price action pivot here on the monthly. That's all the way down at like $500. So that's going to be quite far away. I think the weekly gets it right in this case and also gives you a much more advanced warning. And that would be about 585. Closing below there. Okay. You probably have the early indications of reversal. But as far as the weekly goes, like I said, this really is just one major consolidation. Let me, I guess my LARP lines are still playing out, but hold on. I have to get rid of my beautiful drawing. I always hate doing that. But you have your highs here. You have your lows, like obviously here. You just rejected the highs. You're probably going to come down to the middle of the range. I think you're kind of doing that already. And then if it does come a little bit lower, maybe that like just below $600 is fair enough. But neither of these things changes the overall direction. Below here, okay, direction is now down. You can be expecting, 420, great number. And maybe even lower over time. Who the fuck knows? But that's well and far away. To the upside, if this thing can actually trade back above not this current week's high, but the prior week's high, the May highs at almost $700 and close a weekly above there, I think that this thing is ready to test all-time highs and probably move to new all-time highs, honestly. So yeah, other than that, I really don't have much to say about it. Momentum oscillators say to be more cautious on it and be expecting the consolidation to continue with another downside move, but I would just be going off of ranges here because it is ultimately just one major consolidation. So I don't really look at this thing as having done anything super significant just yet. So yeah. All right, nice one. Crypto Rect RD says, "Dear Sir Crown," and I hope Elson, you are keeping well. Indeed. Actually, I need a sip of the water to keep a little bit better. May I know your thoughts on below tokens as candidates to hit all-time high if Bitcoin manages to hit 120? All right, it's not that many. Vader, okay. Is this a coin? It is a coin. It is a coin. All right, so would this one hit new all-time highs with Bitcoin? Probably not. Yeah, like this certainly would not be my first choice, man. Like, look at it, dude. Just look at it. In order to hit all-time highs for this thing would need to move up 350%. With Bitcoin moving up more or less 10% from its current all-time highs to 120, as you suggested, would I expect this thing to hit new all-time highs? No, definitely not. Maybe it gets a run up to like 7.5 cents, which is a big move from here. It's a 2x move from here, but that's very far away from all-time highs, of course. Now, the only thing that this thing really has going for it is that it's a very new shitcoin, so newer things can potentially rally more. But even then, man, like, it's okay here. It's not terrible, but it's going to require obviously a strong broad market, meaning Bitcoin, in order for this thing to really put in any like reasonable upside moves. It's a little bit too early to say that this one's like down only for forever. It's still a current cycle shitcoin and it's relatively new, but it has to prove itself first. It still has never really even had an uptrend. And, for me, that's very, very important. Anyways, XMR, this one actually probably is the best one off the top of my head, just because it's been one of the better actors as of recent. I mean, if Bitcoin moved to 120, I think that this thing could test all-time highs, maybe even make slightly new all-time highs, possible, yes. But, it's kind of on its own time schedule as well. Like just like a few other things that we've spoken about, I think earlier this week, in that if this thing fails to move past 383.5 by the end of this month, we're going to see monthly momentum turn to the downside for the first time since like over a year ago when it was in this corrective phase over here. So to me, that says this thing is in motion right now. And if you are bullish on it, you expect it to continue essentially this month, at least above 380-ish. At that point, yeah, you're probably looking at a test of prior all-time highs. If Bitcoin makes a new all-time high at 120, I think that this thing would have the best chance to make new all-time highs with it. Just to answer your question very specifically. And then SPX, I'm guessing you mean SPX 6900. This one, I would just off the top of my head probably say no. Let's see where it's at right now. Actually better than where I thought it would be, to be honest. But looking at this here, like you're at the point of maximum potential for failure because you're right at the level that you'd be expressively expecting a rejection if it is indeed going to fail. And it's tried 1, 2, 3, working on 4 number times at the same region at 120. You know, how many more times can it do it before it turns in the other direction? Well, I think this one, similar to the last one, is kind of on a bit of a, it's kind of like a ticking time bomb here. You know, it's in a position of power. And if it is going to break out to the upside, I expect it to happen relatively soon, like definitely before the end of this month, probably in the next week, maximum 2 weeks from now. But for right now, it's in a strong position. It actually could do it. Just need to see if this weekly, if tonight does close above 120 or even next week, if you see like a daily closure above 121, I think this thing really could go on a decent run towards at least 140 to 150 at that point. You know, at that point, you're so close to your prior all-time high that maybe it does. And I would imagine that if Bitcoin were to make new all-time highs at 120, this thing would follow to make new all-time highs as well. So this one in XMR would be my picks. I would obviously favor XMR over this just because it has a lot more price action history. But like I said, be very fucking careful if this thing rejects here, because if it rejects here, it's going to come down, and it's going to come down very fucking hard, well below $1, probably towards like 75 to 80 cents. And how would you actually judge a rejection? Well, if this thing comes back down and really trades below Saturday's low, and especially closes a daily dildo below Saturday's low, yeah, I think that that's good enough. If you want to go by the book, you'd be using Thursday's low at just basically $1. I don't think you'd have to wait at that long, to be honest. I mean, these are pretty close price actions anyways, but yeah, I'd be looking at these 2 points as areas of interest. All right, cool. Okay, let's get back into it. Banksy Rule says, hey, Crown, hope this message finds you well. It's so far so good. I didn't sleep too well last night, but still making through it, man. I guess some rest tonight in preparation for tomorrow's transplant. Holy shit, man, you remembered. Thank you, man. Yeah. Looking forward to that. I've had it done multiple times and paid holy shit, man. But the good thing is that in America, you actually do get pretty good service. So fair enough, man. But I can only imagine how much it costs there. I'm guessing like well over 10,000 probably. Anyways, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the, oh, nice. We got some stonks here. Hood. Okay. Actually, I like to go to this chart for my stonks. So we shall do this. And what time frames are we looking at here? Full disclosure, I'm helping. Oh, that's for the shitcoin, I guess. Okay, no time frames given, so I'm just going to run with it. All right, Hood. I'm going to guess higher term time frames. Yeah, I remember we looked at this one like a week or two ago, or maybe even a month ago, and it's like, this actually looks pretty fucking good. I still think that it looks good. I mean, things that are effectively trading on what is effectively a breakout, is always going to be good. But I'm looking for some obvious signals here for the next potential pullback. And I'm not really seeing it, to be honest with you, on the very high term timeframes. Maybe a daily will have it. Even the daily looks like it wants to continue a little bit more. At some point, you're going to be, or you are building divergences here, but they're just not actionable yet. Obviously, the high that you saw from February of this current year on the weekly is significantly higher high in terms of RSI compared to where it's at right now. But this is not like a top right here. You need to confirm a top versus a top, and this is not a confirmed local high. So while it is a potential there, it's not playable in any way, shape, or form. At least that's the way that I look at these things. So I think that this thing's more likely to make new all-time highs before it does pull back. If we're using the price action pivots, it does suggest an area of interest. If we follow this trend line all the way up close to $90, So maybe it gets there before, you know, it plays out some of these things. The quarterly is a bullish engulfing. I mean, this is fucking good, man. Like I think you got more up here overall until your first like major pullback. Daily time frame might pull back along the way. That's fine, you know, especially as long as you're above like $63. Generally, the direction is to the upside. What else do we have? MSTU. I think this is one of MicroStrategy's yields things. Let's see. No, it's a 2x long MicroStrategy. Holy shit. Don't like it. Okay, with the way that it closed the weekly, I guess there's some hopium here that it does stop and reverse here, confirming this is a local low. But the only way to confirm that would be if this coming week trades above the high of the prior week, which is 835, currently trading at 762. If you see that, okay, this thing's going to get a nice, clean, and easy ride back up to your May highs at least. It's $10.50. Maybe it even goes for this trend line. It's possible, I guess. But I'm less inclined to say that's likely here, to be honest with you. I mean, it did close below a major moving average. We don't have as much history on this chart as we do MicroStrategy, but if I had to call it, I actually think that this one comes down, to be honest with you. Yeah. But hey, if it takes out this past week's high, just even trades above it, 835 for a fucking second, very, very bullish. Expect a nice clean move towards $10.50 and maybe even more from there, but that'd be the first obvious move. All right, and then what else do we have? And then a meme. Oh, a meme, SSR. Okay, you're helping out the team. All right, well, appreciate you. Full disclosures. I don't think it's on TradingView, man. It doesn't look like it, at least. Maybe you're talking about a stock. Oh, maybe it's this thing. Official strategic Solana reserve. I don't know. Okay, I don't know if this is the right thing to be looking at, but it's the only thing I can find with an SSR ticker. I mean, it's bullish, obviously, but I don't know much to trust a chart like this, man. But if I had to call it, it's going to be more up, you know, maybe as far as this trend line here, but you know, maybe around like 0.2 or something. Nice round even number for this. But again, I don't even know if I'm looking at the right thing, but this would be an example of like a good new shitcoin, to be fair, because you know, it doesn't have that much history. It's a new shitcoin for this new cycle. And it most importantly, doesn't have the tremendously nasty downside that we typically see on shitcoins that provides the upside impetus, you know, with a lot of overhang supply. So yeah, man. Banksy from San Francisco. Fuck yeah, man. P.S. There's a personal note for you below. Wait, what? Where is it? Where is it? I don't see it. I think I'm being trolled, but fair enough. Anyways, all right, we'll get into the Discord comments here now. I see, hey, what's up, RectOps? Or Rect 101, is it RectOps or is it Rect 101 PS? Rect 101 PS, wait, what the fuck? I don't know. Anyways, okay. Thanks, man, I appreciate that. I think we can get the sale going in July. We have a sale going on right now, man. So for the next week, 20% off. Could you chart Tesla daily and weekly? Sure, man. I got Tesla. Actually, no, I have it on my other list, but that's fine. I'll just type it in. Obviously, Tesla is going to play with the Musk and Trump feud going on here, but at the end of the day, this doesn't really change anything. It's a consolidation range between 350 to the upside versus 230 to the downside on the monthly. It's EMS, Rect 101. Got it. You know, look, man, I think that this thing probably has another downside swing here, but again, don't mistake that for being bearish. This thing is not bearish, especially as long as you're above 230, but that's, you know, it's a big fucking range, right? It's not very helpful if you're actively trading this thing on the lower term timeframes, but you know, lower term timeframes, do I think it tries a little bit lower? Probably yes. You know, maybe it retests last week's low, maybe goes a little bit lower towards 240 to 250. This is fine. Again, in my opinion, this is just one massive range that has been in effectively since February of this year. Nothing's really changed, right? You got your highs here at 369, your lows at 225. You're right in the middle. Probably going to get a little bit of a bounce attempt at the middle. I don't think it's going to necessarily like turn around and break out from here. But at the same time, well, I think it a little bit more likely to trade to the downside. I don't think it's going to break down, man. I really don't. Quarterly time frame, closing at the end of this month. If this thing closes anywhere above 283.5, which is above right now, to be fair, again, I think that puts it in a nice position of power for the next quarter of this year. But I really don't expect a lot in Q3 for something like this. Probably more consolidation, and then Q4 might try an actual breakout, I think. So yeah. All right, cool. Myth Reindeer says, "Hey mate, how are things?" Well, things could use a little bit more water in my life. I'll put it that way. Thoughts on HNT USDT daily weekly pre's? Okay, HNT. What does this one sound familiar? Helium. Yeah, we have a 2021 shitcoin doing what 2021 shitcoins typically do, which is go down. You'll see fractals of this chart a million different times in this market. They all look the same, and I don't really have much to say that's different on this chart than I do on most shitcoins. There's going to be bounces here and there. Of course, nothing goes down in a straight line. And yes, every once in a while you do get these one-off bounces, but what happens with all of these bounces? They bleed out relatively fast. So it's a very tough game to play. If you like the fundamentals, then that's great, but that's not the game that I play. If I had to call this one, probably comes back down here to like 230, probably bounces as well. I don't think it's ready to break down just yet. I think that this thing could, put in another bounce from there. Maybe it's even a big bounce, but long term, if I'm looking at the monthly, if I'm looking at the quarterly, yeah, I mean, this is obviously bearish. It's, it's setting up to make new all-time lows. How long can that take? It could take many months, man. It could take many, many months. But for right now, you're kind of wedging yourself into this pattern here. So maybe another test of the lows, probably bounce there. I think best case scenario on a bounce, you maybe get like 5.25 or something, and then probably roll over. But the one thing that is consistent with all these charts is lower lows and lower highs, man. Yeah, and if you're just looking at the daily, I don't know, daily could bounce here a little bit. I mean, it's still trading below a major. It is heavily bearish. If it does bounce, I think it's just another lower high. I think best case scenario to the upside in the short term would be like 335 if it does. And I'm not even confident that it will bounce, to be honest. I mean, the trend is your friend, and all higher term timeframes are to the downside, every single one. Waiting on your strategy analysis any moment. Actually, I'm going to upload that probably Monday night. What's up, Pesto? What's one indicator that most traders misuse, and how should they actually be applying it? Oh, dude, like, I mean, every indicator is... The thing is that every indicator can be used in so many different ways, and I'm not really, like... You can find really weird ways to use everything, pretty much, but... If I'm just, like, gonna quote one, what's the hot one right now? Stochastic RSI is always hot. I think that one is just complete garbage. What's another indicator that people typically use? I mean, honestly, like, you can misuse any indicator, right? What's the most misused one? Probably your traditional oscillators, just because they're the most used ones. So naturally, they're going to be the most misused ones. So your MACD, your stochastic, your RSI, these indicators, people will generally just look at like a cross on the stochastic or this cross on MACD as like, oh, things must go in that direction. It's like, no. You need to incorporate it within the context of the trend. So when it comes to momentum oscillators, as far as indicators go, probably the biggest fix that I could see most people make is to ignore any momentum signals that are contrary to the current direction of the dominant trend. If you want to use momentum oscillators in the best way, giving them the highest hit rate, and also just the way that, in my opinion, they were probably designed, is you just want to take the signals that are on the same side of the trend. That's basically it. Another heavily misused one is, of course, moving averages. People will look at a cross on a moving average and be like, holy shit, things need to go in that direction. I long or short exactly right now. It's like, no. This is telling you very likely about a more long-term trend. It is not a call to action to do anything at this exact moment. In fact, it's probably even a terrible time to take any position at this exact moment, but it does give you the bias for what to do later when you get, some other sort of setup that is on the same side of this trend. So yeah, it's kind of hard to say, honestly, because I don't really spend my time like watching other people's content or going, too much into crypto Twitter and seeing what, new indicator people are using. But that's kind of the general issues that I see most people make. Basically just comes down to trend trading, man. Like everything, the more experience that I get in trading and investing and just looking at fucking charts, it's by and far away the most important thing. It's the simplest thing. and it matters the most. Like if you're looking for the 80-20 rule of trading, just learn fucking trend. That's 80% of it. Maybe more, maybe even more. GM, sir, what is your favorite hardware wallet? Oh, nice try. No way, man. No. I had a Ledger for a while, and then I think it broke. I don't know. I haven't really found any that I particularly like. There's always an issue with it. I liked the interface of the Ledger just because I think that their application was like really well done, and I just like the way that it kind of showed things. But of course, Ledger has their own issues, right? They have basically a backdoor into all of the newer Ledger devices effectively. I mean, that's what their whole program is about. But some people might look at that as a pro rather than a con. For me, I have read so much history to know that anything that can go wrong will go wrong, when the incentives are misaligned. And I feel like that would be perhaps one of those examples. So I haven't really found any particular hardware wallet that I think is just the best of the best. But if I can say one thing, most people that I know, and a lot of these guys are like really fucking high value guys. Like they have a lot of crypto basically. They use Ledger. They use Ledger. They use a Ledger Nano X, like, the same thing that I think most people use. So yeah, man, I'm honestly looking for one. So if you have suggestions, I'm all ears. I get, Trezor seems pretty cool. They've got the history on their side. They've been around for a long time. They're open source. That's all good. But I don't really like their interface, to be honest, but I don't know. Maybe that's just a visual thing and it doesn't really matter to you. So fair enough. But yeah, Cayenne Cola. Hi, Crown. What's your outlook on Cardano, both short and long term? Honestly, thinking of getting out and waiting on the sidelines. Cardano has been so crap, but been holding for a long time, but don't want to be making an emotional decision because it's down, which I usually do. So just curious what the technical signals are looking like. Of course, not financial advice. Of course, none of this financial advice. So Cardano, I mean, I don't really have much to say different about Cardano than I do of 99% of shitcoins. Just if the name of the game is to maximize profits, then it's not this, but is this thing as bad as most other things that we've seen, even today or just in general? No, it has higher lows from cycle to cycle, does not have higher highs from cycle to cycle, or at least not yet. And I do think that, it probably has another maybe short-term try a little bit lower than where it got this past week. I've been saying like 60 cents or so, but look, I mean, it's so it's wedging itself into this formation like so tightly now that maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I think that this thing probably still has another upside try in this cycle, but does it make new highs? And most importantly, does it outpace Bitcoin? That's kind of the issue that you're going to run into with any altcoin that has been around for more than one cycle. They almost never, in fact, I really can't find one example of a shitcoin that does better than Bitcoin that has been around for more than one cycle. So basically the Bitcoin pairing makes a new all-time high. This one got close in 2021, but did not make. And it's been down only since then, man. So it's like, look, you're going to get your bounces, but the long-term trend is your friend. And in this case, to the downside. So, don't hate me if this thing fucking bounces up and gets another rejection on what is effectively another lower high at 1,200 Satoshis. It's possible, but the long-term is down. And so if you're holding something for the long term, like there's better options, man. Bitcoin, in my opinion, is a much better option than this thing just because, well, I mean, the chart doesn't lie. So yeah. But it's a question like, do you get into another altcoin or do you get into USDT? I don't know. I still think that this this market could, put in a new all-time high. It's certainly not. I think it's actually a little more likely at this point than not. But I don't think that this thing's going to be like the big winner, for example. I mean, is it even going to outpace Bitcoin? Is it going to make a new high above the 2021 high? No. I mean, shit. The 2021 high didn't even take out the 2017 high. Like, you can't expect that. But it might be an impressive bounce. So. Is it going to be short-lived? Probably yes. Are there going to be other better movers? Probably yes. Is this thing the worst thing in the world? No, it's not. But I mean, you could hold Bitcoin or you could hold this thing. That's kind of the way that I look at all altcoins, right? It's like, it's got to at least do better than Bitcoin over the long term. And that, I mean, from cycle to cycle, that again, I don't even know of one. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but I don't know of one that has done that. So yeah. All right, Drops by Jay. Ooh, I like that name, man. Must be a music producer. My quant crown, hey, all good, man. Thank you. I wish you a prosperous month as well. Want to chart Rio short-term expectations this cycle? Okay, I don't think I've literally ever heard of this one. Realio Network. Again, another just chart of an absolute shitcoin, man. Again, and you know, look, like you get these bounces every once in a while. It does happen for sure, but what happens afterwards? You know, it's the same old story as XRP. You get your one bounce, big bounce, but then it just bleeds out. Do you get another one at some point later in the cycle? Maybe yes, but you know, at this point, I don't even think you're going to get above $1.50. Okay, I mean, that'd be like a fucking massive move from here. You know, that'd be like what, a 6x, 7x from where you're at right now to quarter. So 6x, yeah. You know, you're going to get your bounces along the way, but for fuck's sake, man, like it's a downtrend and it's been down only since March 2024. I have no reason to believe that this thing's going to like flip around here. And if it does, you know, I think an obvious target would be about 60 cents, which is a good move. You know, it's more than a 2x move from where you're at right now. But do I think it's going to flip around? No, I don't. I really don't. Here's your quarterly. I mean, yeah, I think best case scenario, maybe 60 cents. If it even does it at all. Like the most likely thing is just more downside overall. So yeah, if you want short-term, so long-term expectations are just down. Short-term expectations, I don't know, maybe get another bounce at some point, maybe get somewhere between like 50 to 60 cents. I think that's kind of like best case scenario for something like this. But I certainly would not be expecting anywhere above like 1.5 or 160 for sure. So yeah. Take that as you will, sir. Dunning-Kruger effect says, good morning, Mr. Crown. What's up, man? Thanks for the autistic TA. It's ATA, autistic TNA. Could you give some more, please? Alt BG. Okay, so this is a stonk on Euronext, which is, I mean, that's European shitcoins. But pretty nice move here. No doubt about that. Did take out that last swing high from January 2021. Does this thing go up and fill the gap at 4.5, 460-ish region? It's pretty close there already. So why not? That's kind of the most obvious area, I guess. Would I expect a pullback from about there? You know, 4.5, 465. Yeah. And because this thing's been so volatile, you know, it can pull back quite a fair bit. Like, don't be surprised you see it back down around 3.5 to $3. You know, wouldn't be uncharacteristic for something like this, but I'm guessing they had some sort of it's a blockchain group, so it's some sort of crypto company, I guess. Which is interesting because you'd think that is like not going to do well in Europe, especially with all the regulations, but maybe they know something that we don't, or they obviously know something that we don't. Anyways, my point is that I think it's got a little more upside here before the next sort of pullback. But, you know, on a pullback, have to be looking for a higher low, and any sort of pullback that even gets down to like $2.50 is a beautiful higher low. So, you know, give it some time. Maybe it ends up looking something like this, like a little bit more continuation, tops out, comes down, puts in a higher low, and then maybe tries another upside move. I don't know. But when I see this sort of price action here, like it is a little bit of a warning sign, honestly, long term. But for now, you know, can treat it like an emerging uptrend. I think is a reversal coming. Not in the higher term timeframes yet. Even on the lower term timeframes, like a daily, you know, you're building divergences here, but it's going to go higher first, or I should say, it's very likely to go higher first, because you don't even have a local high here just yet. So just let it run, let it do its thing. When it tops out, it'll be very, very obvious. You're already redlining the weekly BBWP. Probably the monthly is getting up there too. It is. So in terms of timing, I don't think this rally has too much more to go. I'd be surprised if it went past August, for example. But, you know, that kind of line up well. Continue into slightly new highs, then come back down and let it cool off for a while. I mean, that could take a long time for it to cool off, honestly. So, yeah. It's not necessarily a blue sky breakout because it's not an all-time high mode, but it is, you know, potential for major reversal, which does matter. Ligma says, GM Crown, love your daily updates. Same. Thanks, man. I don't remember the last time I missed a single one of your videos. Hell yeah, dude. Would appreciate if you can check out Platinum on the daily and weekly. Okay. I'm just going to type in Platinum. Yes. XPT, that's a ticker. I don't really trade commodities myself, so I'm not too familiar with them. Daily, weekly, looks like it broke out of a descending triangle, but I know you're not big on TA patterns. What would be your next areas of interest to take profit? Let's see. Was it first a descending triangle? Actually, no. It was a consolidation range. If you want to put up your finger and be like, excuse me, actually, it's this. No. And it's still actually caught within a greater consolidation range with your highs here and your lows somewhere around here. And I do think it's going to move up to the top side of this range. And honestly, it probably does break out. This is a monthly look, so it can take some time. But the way that I look at this is you're probably going to retest these highs from 2021. The weekly breakout looks real. BBWP is confirming that. Weekly RSI looks good and healthy. I think that this one has more upside. Even the quarterly looks really, really good here on a bullish engulfing dildo. I think that this thing actually has a legitimate chance to break out above that 1300 or so level. And if it does, this is a quarterly, by the way, so it's good. If it does, it's going to take a long time. But if it does, then have to be looking somewhere between like 1550 to maybe 1750. Like this could be a big move. I mean, this was a long consolidation since 2015, so 10 years. I think it might even be resolved on this current move. But at least somewhere back around here in the somewhat short term over the next couple months. Anyways, K3 says, hey, Crown. Oh, God, it's one of these. All right. Massively long ticker versus wrapped Ethereum. Realized a 5x gain on it last year. Nice. Not holding at the moment. Seems like it's barely holding at the lows. Do you see any hope for this utility shitcoin on a daily and weekly? All right. Well, actually, I appreciate you putting in the exact ticker there so I can go just directly to it. No, I don't think so, man. I think whatever gains that you had were... I'm guessing it's in this area right here. I think you did a phenomenal job. I think you made a great, mature, and profitable decision. Obviously, I mean, like that's what happened. But this thing seems to be entering into the downtrend of destiny that most shitcoins go into. So yes, technically it is within a bit of a range itself between this high here and this low right here. Does it bounce off the low again because it's already there? Maybe. Maybe if it does, I think your upside is capped. I don't think you're going to really keep getting above even this number ever again, to be honest with you. I think it's generally going to be down. But, if you rally back up towards the yellow moving average, maybe that's tradable to you. Maybe it's not. I don't know. It sounds like you're probably more long-term. And for that, I would say, I think you got better opportunities elsewhere, man. You're on a downtrend on every time frame, like every time frame that matters. So to me, I wouldn't get caught up in this. I would say, hey, I just made a shit ton of money on this thing. 5x is a big fucking amount. Like, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It is absolutely absurd to not think that. But you're better off looking elsewhere, in my opinion, because this thing is going to have, it's probably going to unravel this whole rally that you saw in late 2024 at some point. So, yeah. Hopefully that was helpful, man. Sugar Booger says, TA for Now's Futures, 4-hour daily. Surprised it's not Pesto asking about this time. Well, he usually likes ES, but I kind of look at them as almost the same, to be honest. Let's see. 4-hour and daily. Daily closed really good at the end of the week, and the weekly, I know you didn't ask about it, also closed decently here too. I think it probably goes for this trend line at 22,130, 22,150-ish region. Does it reject there? I would imagine a short-term pullback, most likely. If you're on the daily here, this technically is a bit of a rising wedge, I guess, but did not take the breakdown opportunity on Friday when it had a chance. So to me, this says, if it's popping back up in here and didn't even close below, give it the benefit of the doubt for a trend continuation first rather than anything else. But divergences are building at this point. So the next time it does confirm a local high, this could be problematic. For some actual downside. When I go to the 4-hour time frame, again, it's a pretty clear and obvious trend here, but on the 4-hour time frame, it does look very easily like it could make another move down towards 21,600. But if I have to be biased in one direction here, I actually do think that this thing does try a little bit further north before the pullback. Like I said, maybe just a little bit above 22,000. Yeah. The monthly looks good. Only way the monthly would look bad to me is if by the end of June it's closing. It's not even necessarily bad, but potentially bad would be below like 21.5. It's a long month left to go, to be fair. But here's your quarterly, for example, kind kind of have to be biased towards upside here, man. Yeah. And if you take out Thursday's high, just trade above it for a second. I think that you hit 22,150 to 22,300. I mean, basically all-time highs for this thing. So yeah. But we could also say, okay, so here's how I'll come up with it. Look, if you trade above Thursday's high, yeah, okay, get ready for 22 plus. Let's call it 22,150 to 22,300. Maybe it just goes for, new all-time highs. By the same token, if it does take out Friday's low, by closing below there at 21.5, I'd be looking for this thing to play out a pretty decent pullback back down to like 21 even, like all the way down there. I mean, maybe even a little bit below 21,000. But yeah. Do not underestimate the stock market. This thing just... I like being a long-term investor in the traditional markets, I'll put it that way. But I'm looking for something that's super obvious here. I'm not really getting it, to be honest. And every time frame isn't enough trend as of now, so I don't want to fade that. The only way that I fade that, and again, not necessarily bearish, but look for a move back down to 21 or a little bit below 21 is if this thing trades below Friday's low. Okay, that would change things around, obviously, but don't think that we're quite far away from there right now. All right, 45 minutes into this bitch, but we got some more to go. Let's see. And do you still eat ground beef every day? Actually, I don't eat ground beef every day, but I do eat beef every day. I have beef patties, which is effectively ground beef for breakfast every day. I fucking love it, man. Mario I Super says, "Hey Crown, just watching your last Q&A and you scrolled right over my question. Sorry, sir. I apologize about that because you answered to someone on live Twitter. My bad. Nothing is 100% right. Yeah, exactly. Maybe you uploaded a video today is close to 9. Actually, it is 100%. I have not missed one day in this streak since over 7 years now. Although I probably should tone it down. Like there's no real reason to post a video every day except for my massive amounts of OCD. So one more try. Which supplements do you take besides creatine? Yeah, man, I take a lot of supplements actually, but nothing super crazy. I take magnesium pills because I feel like they help with sleep and also digestion. I take zinc pills at night, 25 milligrams. I think that also helps with sleep and in optimizing hormone production. And what else do I take? Calcium, because when you drink caffeine or when you drink coffee, it saps the calcium in your body. So I think you need to kind of supplement with that. Other than that, man, my diet is really not restrictive. I mean, it's just it's like a normal diet that humans probably should be eating, to be honest, or at least in my opinion, it should be, or at least it definitely works for me. But that would be, fruits. So I like berries. I like, pineapples, shit like this. I like obviously beef. I'll have some beef patties in my morning with some eggs, and then I'll have maybe some like fatty pork meat after having a hard workout. And then also have actually on hard workout days, I'll also have potatoes, 1 kilo, and then some honey chicken actually as well. That's how I do it. I love it, man. I fucking love it. Texas Sigep 13 says, "Good day, sir. What's up, man? Can we check out Oklo Stonk on the daily and weekly?" Yeah. Oklo. Okay. Daily. Looks like a higher low, hidden bullish evidence on that higher low. I think this week opens up with a short-term upside move towards 52.5 to $53. But the weekly time frame, the overhead view, I mean, this is a really good place for a pullback. It has, to be fair, played out a pretty nice pullback already. Looking for some obvious here. I'm not quite getting it. I guess I have to be bullish on this thing as long as it's above 45.25, which is your last price action pivot. If it loses 45.25, get ready for a short-term downside move, which is actually a big percentage move to 40.5 to $41, with potential for more as well, like maybe even all the way down to $36. But again, long-term, this thing's actually in a pretty good position. It's just, after retesting your highs, you're probably going to pull back a little bit. In other words, I think this thing will make new highs given enough time. And, I'd be bullish actually in the short term as long as you're again above this pivot right here. Can't really talk about like breakouts to new highs as long as this is again not helpful, basically below that Tuesday the 3rd of June's high, which is more or less your all-time highs anyways. So yeah, quarterly, look, I really think that this thing's going to make new all-time highs probably next quarter. But is there a pullback in between there? Maybe. Long term, though, I like the upside. All right. Triple B TY says, hey, Crown, thanks for recommending the Trading in the Zone book. It's very helpful. Yeah, man, it's great. It really stood the test of time, too. You mentioned studied many resources for the long-term investments. Is there any other good book resources you recommend? Anything by Peter Lynch, I feel, is really, 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 really good. Other than that, I listen to a lot of Charlie Munger, just like his talks. And yeah, those are the two main guys that I like to reference a lot. Yeah. That's basically what I come back to. So Peter Lynch has a bunch of different books. They all kind of circle around the same sort of topic. And then, of course, Charlie Munger, you can reference a lot of his speeches, like a lot of his talks and knowledge from YouTube videos. And again, they all kind of have value, to be honest, but his knowledge goes beyond like just straight up stock investing or long-term investing. It goes to like deep human psychology. And I think that also really, really helps. So human psychology books can be super valuable, as are, human psychology, podcasts and shit like that, which you can find from him easily on YouTube. So yeah, Nuke the Black Cube says, GM, stay humble and stack sats. I like it. What led you to the objectively correct decision to become a Bitcoin maxi? A decision that many people somehow find difficult to solve correctly. I mean, I'm still not necessarily like a Bitcoin maxi because, I think that there are some altcoins that are going to be successful. But if I'm looking at the probability of an altcoin being successful, it's less than 1%, probably less than 0.01% on any given basis. But I don't know what they are, and I don't care to know what they are. That's not my game. It's not what I spent my time. What's the biggest reason that made me become a Bitcoin maxi? Well, I got into the space around 2016, 2017, and Bitcoin maxis then were saying all of this, what I thought was crazy stuff in the past, about the future of Bitcoin and where things are going. And, the US government's going to be buying it someday. And the Bitcoin maxis have been right about almost everything that they've like really put their lines on. And also, I think just watching fucking Bitcoin for the past almost 10 years, like when you study the chart, because I'm mostly a pure chartist. When you study the chart, very few things have the long-term general trend of Bitcoin, even in traditional markets, over the period of time that it has been around, which is now almost 20 years. So just in that way, it's legitimate to me because that's the best way to judge it. It's like, what do people actually fucking do with this thing, monetarily? Well, they represent that in the charts. And if it's up and to the right, that's a good sign, man. Very few things are up and to the right over such a long period of time. Most of them are somewhere in, the SPX. I mean, these are good fucking companies. Obviously, Bitcoin's not a company, but it's among that in terms of prestige long term. That's kind of what I think. Any educational resources that played a big role? No, actually, most of it. Listening to most of the Bitcoin maxis at the beginning was a big turnoff. Yeah, it was just living through history and then seeing the Bitcoin maxis being proven right about many different things, and then just watching the charts myself. And yeah, that's really what I'm pretty simple when it comes down to that, to be honest, man. Like my general thesis with Bitcoin, I fucking hate that word because it's so lofty when it's, really not much of a thesis. But my general idea with Bitcoin, the reason why I think it has value is very simple, man. The world is trending towards a more digital world, and Bitcoin is effectively a very, very well thought out digital asset. And with, especially the younger generations growing up in a completely digitized world, Bitcoin's not fucking weird to them. It's only even slightly weird to the older generations. And even then, like my fucking dad was a humongous hater of Bitcoin when he first learned about it early on, but even he came around in the past few years. And so I don't even think it's an age thing anymore. And, it's proven itself, man. That's the biggest thing for me. Yeah. All right. I think we got time for one more, because I do need to get on with my own day. I'm kind of running a little bit late. We'll save one for Love Woods. He's always here, so gotta get to Mr. Love Woods. Tobo says, "Good morning. Hope you're hydrated." Actually, one moment. I have questions about Quant Prime and other indicators. One, what is the minimum starting trading balance you, not financial advice, would use to justify yourself paying the $140 a month for Quant Prime? Okay, so let's set some expectations here. First, I am going to assume, because you've been around this community for a long time, that you're not a complete fucking noob. You're not redacted. You are capable of learning things in a relatively, normal manner. And you also have access to hopefully capital as well. If that is you, and we're talking about the $140 a month for Quant Prime, which actually is 20% off right now. So it's more like what, 110? Yeah, about 110. Well, how much would you need? Well, it depends on your strategy, of course. If you come into Quant Prime with your own strategies and you've actually already backtested them, then the learning curve gets reduced significantly. Obviously, you can copy the strategies that we have in the Quant library. That is what they're for. But ultimately, you're going to have the best results when you start to actually optimize these yourself and create your own sort of thing. From there, to beat the hurdle rate of the monthly cost, it's just a function of looking at your backtesting results and kind of seeing what it performs month over month. Keep in mind, however, that any strategy on any given month might massively underperform and have a humongous loss, or it might massively overperform and have a humongous gain. And so you can't really treat it on a month-by-month basis at like a high level. You need to keep enough in your back pocket to survive, I would say, at least 6 months to a year, depending upon how high of a time frame you're looking at, because the results come over a long period of time. Yes, sometimes you get lucky and you have a fucking phenomenal month and you're like, holy shit, I'm killing it. I should size up 1,000,000 times. But that's fool's gold, in my opinion. Long term, the results are mean reverting. I've seen this 1,000,000 times now. They really are. So anyways, if you already have that in mind, then it's just a matter of plugging in the numbers. If I were to give out just a general number, again, not knowing anything about your strategy or anything like this, I would say you at least want somewhere between $10,000 to $20,000. If you want it to be comfortable, probably closer to 30,000, something like that, man. Anyways, can I use Quant Prime with the third-party trading view indicator that fires off swaps between 4 different stocks? If you can execute trades based off of a trading view alert, then yes. Or if you have a third-party service that can take the alert from TradingView and then translate that into a signal on whatever exchange they're using, then also yes. But if the answer to the questions is no, then no. Is there a published recommended Quant Prime setup that uses the price action pivots? Yeah, we put in a couple there, but it's still a pretty new indicator, so we don't really have I don't think that we've unlocked the potential with that. We're working on a few things in the background as well to increase the compatibility with the price action pivots with Quant Prime, and I think that is what I'm really looking forward to in terms of testing. So yeah. Anyways, cool. All right. We're going to save the last one for Love Woods here. I apologize to people that I'm skipping over, but I do need to kind of get going myself. So he's looking at SPY futures 5-day. Sorry, that wasn't Pesto. That was Love Woods that always wants that. But this is quite a high term time frame for you, sir. 5-day, and what was the other one? Just 5-day. Usually you go very, very low. It's a very similar chart to NAS, right? I would say the same thing on SPY futures as I would on NAS. This one's a little bit better, to be fair. It's a little bit more of a clear, higher low and higher high structure. It even traded above Thursday's high already. So, do I think that this thing's going to break out from here? Probably yes. There is an implied target to be made based off of this as a formation. It's going to be something like this. So that'd be pointed up like basically all-time highs, 61.50. And I would say that target is probably reasonable as long as you're above Friday's low. So, here's your risk, Friday's low, 59.30. Here's your reward, 61.70-ish, basically all-time highs. Which way do I think that it goes here? I have to be biased towards the upside as long as it's above Friday's low. If it loses Friday's low, then, first obvious target is going to be the 21 EMA, which is just below 59. But I do think that it'd break down further from there, probably closer to like 58 or so, with potential for more. Yeah. Overall, though, here's your monthly, here's your quarterly, like these aren't bearish. If it does pull back anywhere around 57 to anywhere around even 57 is probably like a big opportunity. Kind of crazy on the quarterly there, man. All right. Anyways, good place for me to shut this one off. Like I said, tomorrow I'll actually be having a surgery, so I'll upload a pre-recorded video. And other than that, I want to wish everyone the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully next Q&A session, sirs and sirs.